Thank you so much for clicking our presentation. Today we are going to talk about integral management model for agroecological organizations in Ecuador. The authors of this investigation are Ximena Peralta Vallejo, Gabriela Álava Atiencie, and Wilson Morquecho Vintimilla. This investigation will present the evolution of agroecology since it appeared in 1928. Also the evolution in South America, Andean region, and Central America. Later we will focus on Ecuador. And we will explain what is necessary to propose a management model. It will include three different aspects. The first one is process management, the second is value-based management, and the final one is the balanced scorecard criteria. This tool will be really useful for farmers. To start, we are going to talk about the agroecology origin and evolution. The beginning of agroecology was in 1928. It has two main disciplines, agronomy and ecology. However, other fields as sociology and botany and plant physiology also contributed to the development of this field. Later, in 1930, Friedrich published one book related with pest management. This year did the same, but in 1950 and 1961, and was in these publications where the term agroecology appeared. Another important contribution was done by Kegels, who was an agronomist, and he published his book Ecological Crop Geography. Afterwards, in the year 1970, agroecology was defined as a scientific discipline in response to Green Revolution. Later, in 1980, agroecology emerged as a set of practices. However, in 1990 was one of the most important years because agroecology was conceived as a movement. Also, it improved all the farmers' practices. Thereafter, from the 2000s, the investigations increased connecting agroecology with agrobiodiversity and biodiversity conservation. Next, we are going to talk about emergence of agroecology in Latin America, starting with Brazil. In 1982, key authors talk about it, Luxemburg and Primavis. They investigated about agrosystem health based on the ground. It was a reorientation of rural families into agroecology postulates. As a result, there were international congresses and agroecology meetings. It started in 2001. However, in 2002 was created one of the most important organizations in Brazil, the Articulação Nacional de Agroecologia. The Andean region, composed of Peru, Ecuador, and Bolivia, organized protests, especially in Ecuador, in 1990 and 1994. The main contribution was that they combined Andean agriculture with agroecology against industrialization. Consequently, in 2000, commitment researchers, technicians, and professionals promoted social economy, seeking for a sustainable society. Considering the context of Central America, in two countries, Nicaragua and Mexico, we are going to talk about the year 1987. There was a network among farmers, NGOs, and researchers. Mayan extensionists visited farmers located in Tlaxcala. Later, Nicaraguan farmers arrived and learned how to preserve water and soil. This knowledge was introduced in the Unión Nacional de Agricultores y Ganaderos. On the other hand, in Mexico, 1970, the forest community learned a correct production of timber and non-timber products. They also improved the coffee production. Nevertheless, the most important contributions in agroecology were done in Cuba because in 1989 the relationships between Cuba and socialist bloc were broken. It caused an energetic crisis. It led to a renewable energies revolution in different forms: hydroelectric, iodine, solar, and sugarcane, being the last one of the most important. They also introduced artisanal manufacturing of biopesticides and fertilizers. For that reason, Cuba contributed for organic agriculture. In its capital, Havana, was introduced urban gardens in order to fight the lack of food, and it also was created one of the most important movements in Latin America, Movimiento de Campesino a Campesino, where they transmit their knowledge from peasant to peasant. Now is the correct time to ask ourselves why it is necessary to propose a management model. Well, the investigations all over the world focus on technical improvements, agroecosystem, knowledge transferring, public and politic governance, farming processes, etc. Nevertheless, there are no proposals for agroecology administration under a business management approach, not forgetting the social component. Agroecology sustainability is one of the most important points of this. Gabriela Álava talks about alimentary sovereignty and popular and solidarity economy. On the other hand, Altieri and Nichols considering that agroecology contributes with energy sovereignty, technological sovereignty, and food sovereignty in a resilience context. With this in mind, we need to say it is completely necessary to create this contribution. It is time to define our context, and this is the country of Ecuador. Agroecology started in the 80s to mid-90s in this country. New peasant organizations created important networks here. However, the most remarkable event happened in the first national meeting of agroecology in 2005. Later, in 2008 was created the Colectivo Agroecological. It is considered the most important social reference and mean in this country. Heifer Ecuador created the National School of Agroecology. This project is oriented to work with rural, indigenous, Afro communities, mangrove peoples, and fishers organizations. Also, it is necessary to consider the legal support that agroecology has in Ecuador, because the Constitution in its Article 281 indicates that the government will promote food sovereignty for people, communities, and towns. There are two laws which support agroecology. The first one was created in 2009, Ley Orgánica del Régimen de Soberanía Alimentaria, and the second in 2017. Ley Orgánica de Agrobiodiversidad, Semillas y Fomento de Agricultura. The Articles 6, 14, and 48 mention agroecology as a strategy, state obligations, and sustainable agriculture respectively. For that reason, this is an adequate context to prove and propose a new management model. Which management tools are considered? The first one is process management, and we start defining a process, which is a set of interrelated or interacting activities that use inputs to deliver an intended result. All the outputs contain an added value. There are three different kinds of processes: strategic, operational, and support. All of them follow the continual improvement mentality or philosophy. Plan, do, check, and act. On the graph, you can see all the process of continual improvement, starting with process identification and classification. The second is process assessment. The third one is process monitoring and measurement. And the final is process improvement. And it starts again. So it implements a management vision, which is indispensable to generate a positive profit margin. The second tool considered for this proposal is value-based management. It has a financial control, strategic mentality, and human talent management perspective. The objective is to measure how much value is added for the shareholders, clients, employees, and society with the best use of available resources. Nonetheless, considering an agroecological context, the families are shareholders, employees, and clients, because they produce, sell it, and eat the production as well. So, it is indispensable to select a simple but accurate accounting model. Finally, the last tool is the balance scorecard. It was created by Kaplan and Norton in 1992. And it has four perspectives which interact and meet them. They also allow to get the vision and implement the strategy of a business. The perspectives are financial, client or customer, processes, learning and growth. All the perspectives look for the same objective, which is the continual improvement philosophy. Also, the last tool is compatible with process management and value-based management. However, as it was mentioned before, it is necessary to consider the farmer context. Therefore, the proposal model adopts flexibility and applicability. Now, when we define the context, it is the province of Azuay, and it has 150 companies which consider themselves agroecological. It represents 5.42% of the total amount of the organizations in the sector of agriculture, livestock, and fishing. The organizations are located in 14 out of 15 cantons, which represents 93.33% of all the cantons. There are 53 in Cuenca, 16 in Paute, 17 in Ximena, and 14 in Nabón, and 12 in Gualaceo. There are more, however, those are the most representative. Considering everything we said, it is time to present the integral agroecology management proposal model. The strategic processes have two components: a strategic direction and continual improvement. They define the mission, vision, values, and the strategic goals in order to achieve quality for the client. We also have the operational processes, which are production and commercial storage and production sales. All of them produce agroecological food and sell it, satisfying the client needs. And finally, we have support processes. They contribute with employee training, input supply and services contracting, and they are technical support, purchasing, and accounting. All management model needs an accounting model, because accounting is a perfect tool to calculate financial indicators with the objective of determining profitability. For this proposal, it is required a daybook, trial balance, balance sheet, bank reconciliation, tax reconciliation, and income statement. Also, we recommend to implement the 5 indicators on the table: current ratio, financial solvency, return on assets, return on equity, and debt ratio. We also look for control and implement continuing improvement. In order to do this, we recommend the balanced scorecard. The financial perspective contains the mentioned indicators. Also, we have here a description of an indicator, the unit of measurement, the frequency, the formula, and the responsible of this indicator. The client perspective considers the client satisfaction as the main indicator. In the process perspective, there are 4 indicators. The first one is process evaluation, the second is achievement of goals, the third one is variation in sales, and the final is improvement actions. Also, in the last perspective, learning and growth, we have 3 indicators: recruitment and hiring, education and training, and purchase order compliance. It is necessary to mention that the proposed balanced scorecard lacks of 2 more columns, which would be goal and control. These 2 criteria have to be defined by all the organizations when the strategic plan is established. The 4 perspectives control the process management and value-based management, obtaining an integral mixed proposal. At the end of our presentation, we are glad to share the conclusion of this investigation. This proposal mixes 3 models in a simple and flexible way. It connects one of the most important facts of the agroecology, which is know-how, with management tools. It will provide an effective management tool for peasant people, because they will be able to elaborate a strategic plan, analyze their financial situation, improve their production and selling processes in order to achieve quality, seek for continual improvement knowing their strengths and weaknesses, and improve the human talent that they possess. However, the next step is the implementation of the integral management agroecology model in Azuay in order to verify its applicability. The applying process will demand a training stage for peasant people, monitoring and correction of deviations. Thank you so much for attending our presentation.